Welcome back to Corporate Fuckery, stories of survival, psychological warfare, and choosing what's best for you. I'm your host, Lauren DeGolia, and if you've ever found yourself performing at a level that looks impressive on the outside, but feels completely disconnected on the inside, this episode is for you. Because today we're talking about what happens when you've built the life, the career, the identity, the expectations, and things stop feeling like they're yours. And more importantly, what it actually looks like to do something about it. Today's guest understands pressure at a level most people will never experience. Cassidy Gard spent over a decade inside national news, producing for ABC, covering everything from mass shootings to high-profile trials, and securing interviews in moments where most people are still trying to process what just happened. This is someone who built a career on staying composed in chaos, telling stories in real time, and delivering under intensity that doesn't leave much room for you to check in with yourself. And at a certain point, that becomes the story. Because what happens when you're exceptionally good at performing under pressure, but the life you've built around it starts to feel disconnected from who you actually are? That question became her debut memoir, Cosmic Goodness, a raw, honest exploration of identity, burnout, motherhood, sobriety, and what it really takes to stop abandoning yourself and start choosing differently. This isn't a neat transformation story. It's the kind that challenges the narratives we've been handed about ambition, resilience, and what women are really expected to carry without question. So today, we're getting into why it isn't just about workload. It's often an identity misalignment. The conversations no one is having about motherhood, anger, and invisible labor, and what it actually looks like to rebuild your life in a way that feels true, not just impressive. This three-time Emmy Award-winning journalist and someone known for producing in high-pressure situations, including at Good Morning America, walked away from the pressure and the polished narrative and started writing about what most people are still trying to outrun. Let's get into it. Welcome, Cassidy. I'm so happy to have you.
Lauren, I feel so seen. It was
Yeah,
such
you're
a
welcome.
gift.
Yeah. Congratulations on your book baby being born next month. I know that we're going to cover that a little bit, but tell everyone a little bit about, I gave you the intro, but just where do you want to start? Because there's so many things to talk about today.
Yeah, I love that. I really wrote my book for people that carry shame from childhood, maybe grew up with parents that were suffering. My mom was not, but my father really suffered from the disease of alcoholism. And only as an adult did I realize so many of my own personality traits stemmed from that survival mode. So, some of the most wonderful parts that make a career woman great, like perfectionism, actually stemmed from this inherent need to control, and that's a great producer is good at controlling, but
Mhm.
you cannot apply that to your personal life and have the same level of success because that's not what makes success in your personal life. So, it isn't sustainable. You can do it for a little while, but if you actually wanna have a extremely life-giving experience that doesn't drain you and nourishes you instead,
Mhm.
that sort of way to approach life is not
100%.
sustainable.
So let's unpack the word perfectionism for a hot sec, because I would definitely self-identify probably 10 years ago as, oh yeah, I'm a perfectionist. And like I would take great pride in that. And I don't know if that resonates with like, oh, I can produce a badass morning show or whatever you're producing. It's like, no, like I am the best. And it's actually a really low vibe word. It actually,
Yeah.
the frequency is actually super low vibe, and many people don't recognize that. And I know I offended a client like probably 8 months ago now when I was like, that actually isn't where we want to be living because it keeps us in this cycle with ourselves that isn't actually escapable if we don't understand like what it's actually doing. What I kind of heard you say there is this hypervigilance of growing up in a traumatic way creates an output in the workplace that isn't sustainable or scalable. And this has been something at the top of my brain. I'm not joking, like literally all week. So this is a divine conversation. And I'm just like, for all the women talking about burnout out there on the internet, I'm like, we're not talking about ambition and hypervigilance related to trauma, because what we're actually saying then is we have all these women running around the world that actually are carrying severe trauma. And like, how the hell do we get them out of that?
Or they might not have connected it because I certainly didn't right
Neither did
away.
I. Yeah.
It really did not appear until my later 20s. And then some of the other reckoning that I had about my own childhood didn't even happen until I became a mom,
Hmm.
because you start to see your experiences in a totally different light. And so I had a whole wave of grief mourning that came post motherhood. I had very
Hmm.
challenging conversations with my own mom. I was like, wait, did that happen? Because, like, now looking back, that seems insane, but
Yeah.
it did happen. And those conversations, you can choose to sweep it under the rug and never actually get into the grit of it. I
Or,
don't personally think that that is going to be the most healed place if you actually want to have a true connection.
mhm,
And to be totally honest, there's some family members I am perfectly content to keep it shallow. I don't need to
for
have
sure.
that with
Hmm.
everyone. And so
Hmm.
there are some I just nod and say, "Okay." I
Hmm.
just leave it there. That is
And
your memory of that, and that is not mine, but
yeah, I'm not
you're
here to
so
challenge your
peripheral. Yeah.
perception. And that's a lot of the work I do is with the subconscious mind, which is actually based on everyone's model of the world. So all these things that we're going to talk about today are, I believe, going to highlight not only in your book and the journey that you've been on, but like when we have these experiences, like they're creating imprints inside of us. And so when you have a baby, and how old is your child? They looked pretty
I
young.
have 2.
You have two.
I have a son that will be 3 in June, golden, and then Indigo, my youngest, is 7 months. So I am
Congratulations.
in
Like, you're in the thick of
this
it.
season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there
Yeah,
certainly
you're gonna be
are.
in the thick of it for a second. And motherhood does show you everything. It's the perfect mirror, and it is a major identity upgrade too. And we don't talk about it like that because that's why we go into crisis. Anyway, I know we're kind of circling around here and we'll get back to that. I have almost a 15-year-old, and I can tell you that based on, I didn't know any of this either, that when they hit a certain age, when you were experiencing a significant amount of trauma in your life, like that trauma comes to the surface and like you're navigating that while you're trying to parent. And I just have to say, what the hell, especially for us in cougar puberty, is that what they're calling it? It's like a whole nother ball
Do
game.
you have a son or a daughter?
I have a son. Yeah, I have a son.
I look to the future and I wonder, like, how am I going to be with parenting a teenage boy? Because I did not live that experience. And so there's parts about it that I really wonder, like, how can I be both a disciplinarian and know that they have to respect me and can't get away with things, but also connect. I want to be that mom that will be like, I will call my mom, she'll know what to do. I'm not gonna hide this. There's so many things I think about with imagine
So I
myself with
used
2
to be that
teenage
way too,
boys.
because I was like, how am I going to parent a teenage boy? Like, what the actual fuck? I was like, what's he going to be? Like, I told my husband, and I hope my son like never listens to this episode, but he could. But like, I told my husband when we found out I was having a boy, I said the one thing that I did not want was a teenage boy, because I was like, what the fuck is going to happen? What do I need to be prepared for here? And I have to tell you, it is such a gift. He is such a gift.
I cried. So
Yeah, me too, but I'm not
sweet.
going to because I'm like, God damn it. But like truly, all the work that I've done on myself, the work that my husband have done within our own marriage, the way that we have shown and learned to show up in parenting, the way that I believe our generation is leading these generations, not from like a command and control, but more of like a, I want to be the guide and the coach and the mentor. And yes, the disciplinarian when I need to be, but like, I want you actually to become who you are, which I didn't necessarily get that in the generation. Like, my parents are boomers, which is probably, I would imagine, not true for you, or is true for you.
Oh, no, my mom was born in 1949. She's a
Oh,
boomer.
all right. All right.
I
My
have
mom was born in
definitely
53. Yeah.
okay.
So, but they wanted you to be seen and not heard. And I don't believe that most of us who have a sense of awareness or consciousness or focus on self growth, like, we're not here to repeat that pattern. And that was more of a societal impression that was put on parenting in my opinion, right? Like that was the norm rather than what I feel like we're doing today. So I would invite you to just know it can be the best. Is it awesome all the time? I'm not going to lie to you, sis. No, it's not. Like raising a teenager is hard. Their brain is not fully developed, and that is very, very clear. But like my kid cooks, my kid is a great soccer player, like he's a kind human. That is really, we forget when we're thinking about the parenting model. And yeah, I just adore him.
When my son was 3 months, I went to a girl night dinner, and he was so little, I was like, "It'll be great. He'll be fine," and he was, he slept the whole time. But right across from me was probably a boy, young man who's, like, 25, and he was at Soho House dinner around 9 p.m. with his mother. I knew it was his mother because they were identical, and I was, like, watching them, and I just thought, "You know what? It is a Saturday night, and he could be anywhere in the town, in the city." It was New York City. And he has chosen to be at dinner with his mother right now, and I just watched them, and I, like, couldn't stop staring because I just thought, like, she did something that he wants to hang out with her on the weekends and get dinner with his mom. I want that. I hope that is
And you get
instilled.
to create that. Like, you
Yeah.
truly do get to create that. And I just can't, like, I've been circling recently on creating a gentle man. Like, as my job as a mom is to create a gentle man and show him what divine masculinity looks like. And when I can focus on that, my husband can focus on that, and we're aligned. Like, obviously, my husband doesn't talk about it as divine masculinity, but you know what I mean.
I
The world is a
do.
better place when I bring a gentle man into
Mhm.
the mix of life.
That's that's you're speaking my language. That is the vision for sure.
Yep. So tell me that how Cosmic Goodness got to be the title of this book.
Well, to be totally honest, it always starting in 2017 when I was writing the book was always Last Kid Left at Summer Camp because I was writing about that inner anxiety that lives in you, that everybody else is moving on, starting their lives, starting families. And I had this fear that dating was musical chairs. The music was going to stop. Everyone would have matched up, and I would be the last one standing all alone.
Mhm.
And Cosmic Goodness was a whole separate thing because that was the name of the cabin I bought during the pandemic, which became my segue out of this high level stress career. And it was always originally just Last Kid Left at Summer Camp. And then right after I got my book deal, it was 2 days later, the Camp Mystic tragedy happened with the flooding. And immediately I was like, oh, this is
Can't do
not the right
that.
name. This
Yeah.
is just too raw. It's not right anymore. And so it was just a very easy, the publisher was like, well, you write so much about cosmic goodness and the cabin. So maybe it's just that. And
Mm.
so we veered away. And ultimately I'm grateful we did because that was more of an essay about that inner anxiety, but naming that the title wasn't the most like I could say cosmic goodness a million times in a row, and it just, like, continually transpires into these kismet things happening, whereas the other one is, like, cheeky and kind of fun, but it
Yeah.
hasn't changed my life the way that cosmic goodness has.
Yeah, I was never into astrology. So similar to you, I had a very high pressure job. Maybe not as high pressure. I wasn't covering mass shootings
What
or
were you
doing
doing?
I was working in at Nordstrom Technology in the corporate space as a chief of staff to part of the organization and literally like duct tape and baling wire every single day trying to keep the shit on the rails, balancing $150 million every year, which in the grand scheme of life, corporate speak isn't that much. But yeah, I was probably sleeping 4 hours a night trying to keep myself in a aesthetic box because I was working in luxury retail. I was flying all over the country. I was doing really cool shit, having a great time, and like having a nervous breakdown or an existential crisis like every 4 to 6 weeks because I was like, I can't keep doing this. In fact, I was telling Olivia today, I was like, at one point, I got so sick I could barely keep my head above water. Like, I don't remember what I had, but I chose my primary care doctor around the corner from Store One in downtown Seattle because I was like, "Oh, if I ever need anything, like, I'll just run in." Well, I run in and he's like, "You need antibiotics." And I was like, "Okay, what's the fastest way for me to get back to work? Like, I just need to get back to work." And like you, like, I had a 3 or 4 or 5 year old at the time, like, he was little. And he's like, "Well, I can give you a dose of a round of amoxicillin or a Z-Pack, or I can give you a shot in the ass." And I was like, "I'll take the shot in the ass just so I can get back to work." And he's like, "Okay, let's go." And when I said that to Olivia this morning, I'm like, that's the level of insanity that I was operating at. I just picture like a racehorse that like has to get back on the
Yeah.
track and keep running. So
And so when you were doing this job, that's a different experience because I had already left that world before I became a mother. So when you were postpartum and had just had your baby, like, did you just immediately go right back in?
yeah, I made a
Yeah.
switch when my son was about 3. I was in pharmaceutical manufacturing, so I was in quality assurance and again, traveling the world, like doing some really cool stuff. And I made the hop over to technology and I had always wanted to work for Nordstrom. So yeah, I had a 5-year-old at home that was doing bath time and I was sitting at my desk in downtown Seattle, like trying to get shit done. Now, the thing you probably don't know is I blew it all up because I had a Me Too moment in the corporate space, and the chief information and security officer at the time touched me in a meeting in front of my peers, like shook my chair and was like, "When are we going for drinks, Lauren?"
Wow.
I reported it to HR and then he retaliated. From my perspective, he retaliated against me for almost a year, told everybody not to partner with me, smeared my name with the executive team, and almost a year to the day later, my brain got to the made the drew the conclusion that I only had 2 options. I could stay and try and navigate the toxicity, or I could blow it all up and trust that the universe was gonna have my back. I did not believe in the universe at that time at all. And so thus, I went in, I skipped down the street after I handed in my badge and my laptop and pretty much told them to fuck off. And then I promptly spent the next few years having a full-fledged identity crisis.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you were home. You went from that to being home?
Yeah, and COVID hit like 4 months later. So COVID
Mm.
felt like a walk in the park compared to what I was navigating internally because I had adrenal crisis. I was completely depressed. Like I had none of my neuroreceptors were actually firing. Like I had no dopamine, no serotonin. This is what happens to people's bodies
Yeah.
when we max out our adrenals, and like we talk about it a little bit online, but we're never like, "Hey, your brain feels broken because it's actually not firing properly."
Right.
But
No,
go ahead and
completely.
do that manifestation thing and hope that you're gonna land the windfall. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
so backwards.
So
So,
backwards.
yeah, I spent most of 2020 actually learning astrology. Like, I had been in therapy my entire life, and it was one of those things where I'm a pattern recognition girly, and I was like, "Oh, like, there's a lot of patterning here," but it was learning my moon sign that was the thing that cracked me open because 'cause I'm a Capricorn sun, so boardrooms and hard work and all that jazz is like definitely who I am. But
Yeah.
my Pisces moon and why I was always so sensitive, I had leaders throughout my entire career. Why do you take things so personally, Lauren? You need to have a tougher external shell. Like you need to not take things so hard. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like all I want to do is a good job. My
Yeah.
Pisces moon, she was the unlock.
She was the unlock.
Mhm.
Wow.
Which is
What a
why I was asking about
beautiful.
cosmic goodness, because I was like, I want to know how you got the cosmic in there, baby, because I can guarantee
Yeah.
you right now that in the walls of ABC, there was not like, hey, let's talk about astrology and the cosmos.
No, but what really made me, I would say, there are different worlds of news you can work in, and as a booker, I lived in that high pressure world of having to book people that had gone through something that was really challenging, but I was intertwining in approaching these people with all of my inner world encompassed. Like, one of my most favorite spiritual guides is Marianne Williamson, who
Hmm.
was really kind to give me a blurb and read the book. But when I first started going to her lectures, she said before every single meeting you go into, you pray for the other person and that you're both in a headspace that you're divinely prepared to have the most high level conversations possible. So I think I had this whole other approach, door knocking somebody that had gone through a tragedy, someone in front of them that they knew
Hmm.
getting shot, and sometimes the person survived and sometimes not. Like, there were a lot of people around me that were just, like, not considering, like, the
Hmm.
level of sensitivity, and I would sit in my car and pray for that person, not from a Jesus point of view and not from a hyper religious. It
No, it's
was
like
just
intention
a
setting. Yeah.
and yes, and
Hmm.
so in this very twisted way, like, it was weird because I just when I came into that position, I was just booking every single assignment. There was like a year and a half, 2 years where I think on a high level, they're like, "Oh my god, this booker is like
How is
on
she this
another,"
good?
like, what? I was on emails with the president of ABC, and it was just like, she got exclusive, 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 and I just think these people really trusted me and they felt comfortable with me. And so some of the like cosmic stuff that happened like throughout my life, like it just was so unexplainable. And I knew it came from a place so much higher than just made sense on an earthly level. I don't know. Like my thing is angel guides. I just talk to them. I'm like, show me the path to be on today. I think having a willingness to be a little woo-woo and have these conversations,
It's really
feel
uncomfortable. Yeah, it's really uncomfortable.
I feel this, like, unbelievable connection to my paternal grandmother. I have really intense dreams of her, like, even
Mhm,
still, and
mhm.
she's in my head all the time, like, when my children were born, I just truly know that, like, there's, like, moments of my life that someone like her is just, like, speaking,
Yeah.
whispering into me, and that's, to me, cosmic. That's the cosmic
Yeah.
aspect.
I love that because on this journey that I was on very similarly, it's COVID life. I live on a small island, it's 25,000 people. I'm like driving around. I'm looking for all those signs and signals. I'm getting really curious. I'm feeling like that gut, oh my God, what's happening here? Kind of, you know what it's like when you're like unraveling the next level of your consciousness, right? And it's
Oh,
scary.
yeah.
Your cosmic cherry gets popped and you're like, oh my God, am I doing this right? Because when you have all that vigilance, you're like, "Oh my god, I have to do this right. I can't fuck it up." And so I'm driving home and um I'm like down the street and I feel my grandfather in the car with me.
See?
And I'm
Listen to
like,
that.
this is insane. Like I feel insane and I'm like, "Oh, hey." And he died when I was 17. Like this wasn't a recent thing. This was like a long time ago thing. And I was like, "Hey," and I just kind of started talking to him, kind of like it sounds like you talk to your grandmother. And like I just felt his presence. And so what was weird is because I was in like this super spiritual woo woo, like figuring out, unpacking all this part of myself, it essentially took me to his birth chart and like I drew some correlations back to myself. But I got home that day and I was like, telling my husband, I was like, I think my grandfather was just in the car with me. I knew how crazy I felt like I sounded. But then I also had this belief about what that guidance like actually meant. So fast forward like 18 months and I have this Akashic record reader that has been like integral as a strategic guide for me. And she's like, Lauren, he's actually like one of your spirit guides, which is it's very rare to get any sort of parent or relative to come back as a guide, but he's definitely it. So it's very strange.
Oh, I mean, I know without a doubt my grandmother is one. So the fact that you feel that connection with your grandfather is not at all surprising to me
Yeah.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
I know how powerful that is. I really do.
So let's go back to the book for a sec. And I'm just so impressed you were writing a book while holding everything together in what you were doing. Tell me what was like breaking open, because I fantasize that women listening to this podcast are at that point where they're like, something has to give. I can't keep doing this like this. And the thought of more work or pouring your energy into something else feels like a fool's errand because you're like, I'm out of capacity. So, give us a little bit of a landscape about what was going on and like how you started rearranging the puzzle pieces on your board so that some of these things could start shifting and changing.
I love that. The biggest thing at the time, I was 27 when my dad died, and I had just gotten out of a 4-year relationship. So I was in this spot where I was like, okay, I'm only 3 years away from 30, but I did feel like 30 was when something big was going to have to shift because I
Mhm.
knew like the life I'd been leading from 22 to 27, like those 5 years. A part of me is like, I can't do another 5 years of this. I will die. I don't have it in me.
Mm.
And around that time, about 6 months later, I met someone, and this person is not the person I end up with, but we had this unbelievable cosmic our birthdays are exactly 6 months apart, Gemini to
I was like,
Sagittarius.
Gem Sag, cool, okay.
He was a Bitcoiner. He had become very successful in Bitcoin, so he did not have a job, and so I am in this, like, high power career, working crazy hours, and
Mhm.
then the person I'm seeing doesn't work.
He's, like,
So
freeballing it, and you're like, "I don't relate to that at all."
he really, you know what? I have so much, even though he was not my person. What was it? It was 2 months into knowing each other. He was like, let's go to Morocco." And I was like, "I can't take off work. What are you talking about?" He's like, "No, I have this business trip." And he was on the board of companies, so even though he didn't work, he, like, still had work obligations that would come up a couple times a year. There was this whole other world that unlocked because if it weren't for him, I was not going to be taking off 2 weeks of work to fly to Morocco, and that was the first time in my whole entire career I took time off. And so little, like, fragments of that did start to change my life, but as I write about, ultimately, I'm a 29 at this point, like, we've been on and off twice during our time together, and I am like, "You are either gonna commit or you're not," and it was very clear he had a lot of commitment issues. I turned 30 in November, and then 3 months later, the pandemic started. So, I he and I broke up right before my 30th birthday, and so suddenly it's, like, back to square one, completely alone. The difference this time is when the pandemic started, there was a week or 2 where we were still actively covering stories, but then everyone kept getting sick, like, all of the producers
Mhm,
were getting COVID because we were
mhm,
traveling, and so
mhm.
we all got grounded in the sense that we were not going to go on location, and that was in March. That was March
Mhm,
13th, and then by
mhm.
June 1st, I was driving to Montana solo. I had just read Glennon Doyle's Untamed. It
Uh-huh.
unlocked something in me. I read it, and the way that she writes about Selah and these aspects of her own life, and I had already been writing my own collection of essays, and I looked at the bravery of somebody like her
Yeah.
and the way that she was so authentic and so raw. Like, I am
Mhm.
just not attracted to conversations in the shallow end. I
Yeah, for
feel
sure.
when it's fake. I feel when it's just, like, dipping a toe in, and,
Mhm.
that's some people's comfort level, but when you find people that you align with and you trust and you're like, "Let's go deep," that's I would rather be in the corner of the room talking about star signs and astrology and
Yeah.
dead dads, like, more than the small talk. So that was the arc, and then by the time I went to Montana, it was like I got out of the shower on the 2nd morning I was there. I'm totally single. My dog is about to be 15 this month, but at the time she was 10, or I guess, no, she was 9, and it was like a god shot because I'm getting out of the shower and I was just like, "I wonder what the real estate like is here. What is it like here? What is real estate like in Paradise Valley, Montana?" And it was just such a clear thought. And then I'm, like, soaking wet. I, like, sprawl on the bed, open my laptop, I'm scrolling. I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's like a ranch for a micro cost of what you get in Los Angeles." And this was, like, right before COVID was really changing the prices of real estate.
Yeah.
And I saw a listing, and it was 6 acres and the most adorable, cute cabin, like, very much in a price range that I could
And you're
afford.
like, "I could do this."
I had
Yeah.
been looking. It was just like domino double whammy. I call the realtor, he's like, "Oh, I could be there in 15 minutes." I get there. I'm
This is
like,
like same day with the shower, like, you're in the shower and then you buy
"Oh,
the thing?
that's how I operate." I made an offer that afternoon. It was like boom, 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 boom. But that's like when you're untethered and you're
Yeah.
not in a long-term relationship, you don't have children, you don't have to consult with anybody.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours, I was in contract. It was
That's
just, like,
amazing.
outrageous. I was seeking my exit ramp from the life I
Mhm.
was living, and I didn't
Mhm.
know what it was going to be, and I know if the pandemic hadn't happened, I know for a fact it wouldn't have been Montana.
Yeah.
Don't
Montana
know.
is so beautiful.
Ugh.
Like, it is like the Pacific Northwest is gorgeous, don't get me wrong. But there is something about Montana, and maybe I've watched too much Yellowstone, and I was a horse girl growing up, but I'm like, I fantasize about living there. Like, I really do. It's just beyond.
They film parts of Yellowstone in Paradise Valley.
Oh,
Sometimes
did
they're
they?
in yeah, they're in different areas, but some of it is shot there. So,
Yeah,
the
it's
front
gorgeous.
like, when you're on the front porch and you look out, one of my Airbnb guests sent a photo once, and for whatever reason, the whole entire sky was pink, and she's like,
Mm,
"Wow, look at these pink skies," and she sent me, like,
mhm.
the most unbelievable photo ever. But yeah, it's you go there and you're just transported into another dimension. I think
Yeah.
differently when I'm there. I process things differently, like, the mountains are so huge that any, like, problem that arises, I literally just look at the mountains and I just, like everything just, like, exhales off of me in a completely different way than I ever could access in Los Angeles.
What's your moon sign, sis?
I only know I'm a Sagittarius. I've never
Oh,
gone
we might
deeper.
have to do, like, a whole
I would
situation,
love
like, I would
that.
love that. I'd be curious to know your moon sign and how it relates to nature like that, because that's, like, big grounding energy, and your moon sign rules your emotional body. Like, it rules how you process the internal dialogue. Your sun sign, or what you know as your horoscope sign, is,
Mhm.
like, your outward identity. But, like, if you want to understand some of your habits, some of your patterns, some of your loops that you get stuck in, like, understanding that little sliver, not in a complex, like, let's go deep in all this, but, like, enough to be like, "Oh, I kinda get this, I kinda see this." It's not a silver bullet, but it is a little bit of a cheat code to, "Oh, energy feels like this here. Oh, energy looks like this here." And that's how I started to learn how to choose what's best for me, because it's
Love that.
whatever filled me up or didn't, or whatever emotional reaction I was having. Also, there's a whole bunch of other sciences I'm sure you're aware of that tell you very different things about yourself, but that's fascinating. Glennon also was a big part of my journey as well.
Really?
The book before, two books before Untamed. I pulled up the thing here. Carry On Warrior,
I
The
read that one
Power of
too.
Embracing Your Messy, Beautiful Life. I was reading when I was at Nordstrom Corporate. In fact, my kiddo was probably like 2 at the time, and she was brave to write a book like that and talk about addiction and talk about changing teams and really getting gritty about what it meant to look at your life head on. And what I love about her and some of the other authors that really came out during that time is they talked about and set the stage for, like, this is kind of what change looks like. Now, I would love your take, especially as it relates to your book, because when you, like, actually go there, it's not like it's written in most people's book. Like, it actually feels like your soul goes through a rock tumbler and you come out the other side a whole new person. But I would love your take on that, and, like, how cosmic goodness, like, really gives people a little bit more guidance and relatability. I obviously haven't read it, but I understand there's a huge raw component here. So tell our listeners, like, what the rawness is and why that rawness is so powerful in terms of transformation.
Well, I think the thing that is most impactful for me is I really don't think you necessarily go through the darkness one time and then you're healed and you're always in the light. I think the biggest thing for me was when I did meet my partner, we met on February 22nd, 2022, which was like, you can't even make it up. It was a sound bath in Joshua Tree. It snowed the next morning. It was 2 to 2 2 2. It was very special. And I was in an incredibly aligned place when I met him, and we had a beautiful courtship and pregnancy. And then I write really transparently because when my firstborn was 8 days old, I fell asleep on the bed and he fell off. And, babies can fall off beds,
Babies
accidents
can.
happen.
Yep.
But in this particular circumstance, my son had a skull fracture and a brain bleed. He, thank God, is okay now, but there was a period where the doctors really said, "We cannot guarantee there are not long-term effects from this." So, my, like, first entry point into motherhood, like, the first 8 days were pure bliss, and then suddenly, like, my darkness was this whole other second tier. I was like, "I already went through hell. I'm healed. I
Uh,
found the person. I manifested this wonderful partner. I wanted to become a mother so much, and now I have the baby, and I fucked it all up. My
yeah.
baby skull got fractured, and he has a brain bleed because he fell off the bed under my care. Like, it was my shift that it happened because we decided to sleep in shifts, and the shame I felt, the darkness I felt, the onset of postpartum anxiety that tainted, like, the whole entire rest of my first year of motherhood I was so angry at myself, but anyone that's, like, listening, I personally found a lot of light through reading. My
Mhm.
heroes are Elizabeth Gilbert,
Mm.
Cheryl Strayed, Glennon Doyle. I think, like, the trifecta of these 3 women are incredibly raw and authentic, and I knew I had messy, fragmented stories inside of mine. I think at the core of it, like, my favorite essay in the book is a chapter that is, "I'm not easy and breezy, I'm windy and complicated," because a guy said to me, like, just be easy breezy," and I, like, write about, Glennon's version of Untamed is, like, Untamed for her, like, mine was, what does a windy and complicated woman look like? Not all women have the capacity. If you're healed and you're spiritual, this idea that that means you should be easy breezy and chill is not necessarily, like, my version of, like, what healed looks. Healed to me is being really fucking confident in your boundaries and, like, what you'll tolerate in your life, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you no longer have friction in your life or that
Yeah.
you're healed and everything is just a walk in the park. So, I think knowing you're in seasons and reinventing, like, different identities. Right now, like, the biggest thing with my family, like, we have decided we rented our house and we are nomadic for the next year. We are traveling to different cities and countries every 4 to 6 weeks, and the reason we're doing that is because I was suffocating living in the suburbs. I was like, I love the children themselves. I love my babies, the household around, the fact of owning a house when something goes wrong, it's usually me that's, like, calling and organizing and dealing with repairman and for whatever reason, if you have a house in a cold climate, like,
Yeah.
pipes freeze, things go wrong. You're like,
Yeah.
"Why is the floor flooded? What is this?" So all of that was interfering with my time to write. Like, my creative curation of my life that usually is something that happens when both kids happen to be napping at the same time. If I have a perfect 90 minutes where they're asleep, I don't wanna be dealing with stuff in the house. Like, I don't wanna be dealing with household stuff. So, it was a really challenging conversation that my partner and I had to have, and we had to really talk about the domestic labor and how it was set up because before we became parents, I was so excited and thrilled and eager to leave my career. I was like, "Yes, I will stay at home. I'm cool with that. You do all the work. I'll take care of the kids."
Mhm.
And it was totally fine until the second came. And then I couldn't even put the first down for a nap because
Yeah.
the second needed me. And then no one was napping and everyone was screaming. And for whatever reason, like living in the suburbs, confined to a house where you have to drive everywhere was so much harder than when I was in a walkable area and could just put them both in the stroller and go outside. So
Yeah, for sure.
right now, like, we're exploring what is our family dynamic gonna look like. I don't think we'll be nomadic, like, for their whole childhood. I also want them to experience having a home, and my 2.5-year-old talks a lot about our old house and
Mm.
memories of our old house. Like, he saw a photo on my phone this morning, and he was like, "Oh, our old yard," and we still have that house, we rented it, so it's not it's gone forever, but, yeah, I really, right now, in this season, just love being outside, like, the confines of 4 walls in the
Yeah.
suburbs, and it's, like, very special to me to get to be traveling the amount that we are right now.
Yeah, a couple things that you said that I just want to unpack a little bit more. Number one, when you are a ambitious woman, the idea of navigating, because I'm experiencing at 46 with a 14-and-a-half-year-old and 2 dogs, I'm like, I don't want my whole fucking day to be spent driving around an island and going to a dog park. Like, I know on the outside that looks like the definition of some people's success. That is not my definition of success. And I think
Yeah.
what I just heard you say, and please correct me if I didn't interpret it, but it's like there is something about managing the mental load of all that that doesn't actually fill us up.
It's
And
very
I have
draining.
felt like yeah, I have felt like such an asshole for being like, look, I don't want to drive you to school today. Like and It's not
Do you
because I
put him
don't.
in an Uber or does he take the bus? What do you
Sis,
do?
there is no Uber here. He
What do
has
you
an
do? Does he
electric
walk?
bike. No, I will take him, but I will take him, but it's like an hour. And again, it's 2 miles to school, if that. But the traffic, and then I stop for coffee, and it's not, oh, I have some big glamorous, 2 hours of my day is spent driving and walking, exercising dogs. And I'm like, before I know it, he's back home. And then I have the mom guilt of trying to juggle the business and the clients and the whatever. So I think what you just highlighted is something that's really key of we think we can just go switch off this version of our success to fill it with something in the suburbs. And it doesn't happen like that. Like our identity just doesn't catch up to that being satisfying.
Do you find like groups of women that you connect with in this particular area that also are interested in the same things you're into? And
I have a few. I think we moved here right before COVID, the year before
okay.
COVID hit. So like I wouldn't say I have great friends. My sister lives about 8 minutes from me and she has
Oh,
three little
that's
kids. Her
cool.
kids are like your kids' age. And so that's lovely. Like um and it's kind of less about friendships and just more about like how you structure your life and how you define what success looks like in your life is like a really important part of the season. Um
Yeah.
of where you're at. And I feel like for me, I call myself an executive success coach because those definitions of success, for the most part, up to a certain point in life, I believe were defined by someone else and not by these ambitious women that are out here killing it being perfectionists. And so I really help
Yeah.
people kind of unpack what that looks like. And then wanting more, whether it's children, whether it's a house in Montana, whatever it is, and figuring out how to create that. Like, yes, there's an element of manifestation to that, but there's also an identity that comes with how you actually want it to feel, which is why I'm also like a certified life and success coach, but at a subconscious level. So I help change the patterns and loops in people's minds that are keeping them in those old perfectionistic identities that don't translate to I'm living on an island, I'm living in Montana, I'm living in Paris, France, because it doesn't feel comfortable in our body. No, like we want to go back in a way, and it's sick. And I feel like you would agree with me on this. It's like it's sick that you like actually would be comfortable going back into that, even though maybe you're not 100% in that same spot because you're at a different era of your life. But it's like there's part of me that could talk myself into going back if I wanted that level of success again. I'm like, my ego would say, oh, yeah, I could do it. My soul
Yeah.
is, oh, fuck no. Oh,
You
we
know
are
it
not
wouldn't
built for
feel
that
good.
anymore. Yeah.
It wouldn't
So
feel good, yeah. It would
it wouldn't,
feel
but you
it
would
would
do
feel
it if that's what you wanted to do. You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I if you wanted to do that, I am so far gone from that
Yeah.
world. I could never go back. I do wonder, I do think, I'm like, well, one day I will be an empty nester. One day my children will be out, and I hope at that point I'm still getting book deals and writing,
No,
and
you're
I
going to
do
evolve so much past that. Like it's going to be so far beyond that that's going to be a rear view. Because back to what you were saying about the healing and oh, I had done this. Like I had done all this and like I had gotten to this point where I was really happy and then the baby fell off the bed and like I'm back in the thick of it. I feel like, and I would love your take, it's like I feel like there's this sense, especially as an overachiever, ambitious woman, someone who loves to achieve things, we want to hit a level and be like, okay, I'm going to coast right now. Like I've done enough. I've been to therapy enough. I've been to the doctor. I fixed my hormones, like whatever it is. We're still human beings with human experiences and that shit never ends. We're never hitting the
it never
pinnacle.
ends. No.
But it's a faux pas, right? Because we want to tell ourselves that it's going to just all be fine and like we're going to wake up and sunshine's going to come out of our ass every day and like then the baby falls off the bed and like we're back in the spiral of life.
Well, yeah, I mean, and finally with my first, like, I was coasting, and then, thank God, like, a very easy pregnancy, and holy shit, when the second one was born, I was drowning. I was
Yeah.
drowning, 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 and I was like, "Oh my god, I love this child, would never take him back, but what the hell did I do?"
Mhm.
Why did I shoulda just if I could have had this exact child in 1 year when my oldest was 3, like, those were the thoughts I was having, like, "Just give me this exact baby when the oldest is 1
Yeah.
year older."
Their soul
But
wasn't under
now
that contract.
no, now
Mhm.
we're now he's almost 3, and then the youngest is, like I said, 7 months. Like, now we're in a rhythm, now
Yeah.
it's fine. But the first 6 months, oh my God, like just coming out of that drowning period and coming out the other side and feeling a little bit human, and that identity crisis that happens is also when you're at your lowest. And I think that the rawness for getting to reinvent is ripe. It's a very ripe time to think like, well, what do I want my dream world to look like? But more importantly, the way you said it, it's how does it feel? Like, how do
Yeah.
I feel inside with it? And that's honestly become my compass for if something doesn't feel good, I have absolutely no problem just opting out. And
Yeah.
I used to feel a much bigger sense of obligation, and I no longer feel obligated.
Yeah,
I
the
have to
corporate
protect my
fuckery wants you
energy.
to perform, right? The corporate fuckery in the system wants you to perform. And the whole tagline for my show is like stories of survival, psychological warfare, and choosing what's best for
Mm.
you. Because in a system that wasn't designed for your humanity, it is really hard to choose you. And ultimately, I believe that's the thing that sets you free in the long run.
My thing with corporate though is that you're taking your most sacred, delicate, just germinating ideas and giving them to somebody else. I
Mm,
recently had a publication approach me to write for them. And I was like, yeah, that'd be interesting. And when they sent the contract, they would own all of it. The
all of your
words, the
IP.
IP, the
Uh-huh.
copyright, like I wouldn't own
Cute.
any of that. And I was like,
Yeah.
wait, I that the essays that you're interested in are from forthcoming books I'm writing. Like they're from essays and proposal of future books. Why would I sell that to you for nothing and not own any of it? So that was a really big thing where I was just like, "Oh, I why would I do that?" And I guess my 22, 23-year-old self would have been so eager to
Yeah.
have a byline at this huge publication, and now at this age, I'm like, "You're not owning my essays," so that's an easy no.
So this season, Cassidy, and I know we haven't talked about this yet, so I'm not trying to apply pressure here, but it's about new year, new rules. I'm still like technically I started this on January, sometime in January. But I would love just in that vein that you just said of you're giving away parts of yourself. If you were to redefine a corporate rule based on our conversation, based on your book, Cosmic Goodness, how would you take that and give it to the listener here today on like how she can start rethinking like what's possible in her life, how to make different choices, how to manage her energy differently. What does that look like to you?
To me, I always thought, what are you building and growing that you own? At my old job, really talented on-air personality recently left, and she had been there for a really long time, and she made a video and just said, "My contract wasn't renewed. This was not my choice, and I'm devastated." And she was so honest and authentic about it, but in reality, I see how talented she is, and I'm like, "Girl, just you're just gonna start making direct social media content that's related to what you're interested in." And when you look at people like Alex Cooper and call her daddy,
Mhm.
whoever is your boss that you are creating content for and they own the ideas and the IP and the shows. I come from a creative industry, like a creative industry, and
Mhm.
entertainment is a totally different world than perhaps like the corporate of law per se. It's a different experience, but I think you just get to a point where you don't wanna work for anybody else. I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to make my own hours. I didn't wanna have to ask for time off. I just wanted to be
Yeah.
in charge of my own schedule. And so if somebody's listening, I think you just get to the point where you've had enough. And when you're at that point, there's no turning back. And in full transparency, I had the circumstances of the pandemic. Like, I don't know what my walkaway point would have been. I could very easily, I'm a very stubborn person. My walkaway point could have been that I had gotten sick and I had worked another 5, 6 years and something happened where I just had my body give out, whether it was a nervous system
Mhm.
problem or there's a reason
Yeah.
people are going to retreats and taking time off.
Yeah.
You can't work at that level, but with the pandemic, like, I was forced into it, and then I did go build something with my property, and I have resistance because people hate Airbnb and how much it's destroyed the housing industry, but in all honesty, it was already an Airbnb when I found it. It had been built to be an Airbnb. So it's not like I took this little house in this little community and made a short-term rental. I never felt guilt about it because it always was an Airbnb. But there's a lot of people locally within Montana that have a lot of anger over
Yes.
short-term rentals because it has changed the landscape of local communities.
Yes.
But there aren't a lot of hotel options out in Paradise Valley near Yellowstone National Park. So if people want to go visit that area and not be in a hotel by the freeway, you're either going to go stay in Yellowstone or get a hotel. Or there was one really famous lodge, Sage Lodge, but outside of that, people have made really lucrative businesses running Airbnbs, and that
Well,
was
especially if it's like in the Yellowstone, the show. Like, I mean, people are addicted to that. It's insane.
oh, I've gotten so many guests that have stayed there and left comments that they're like, "I wanted to come because of the show," you know? So it has changed the landscape of the tourism industry for sure, but you have to find something that lights you up. I
Mhm.
never in a day of working that property part of my job was I redecorated it, I gave it a makeover. I made it was like anthropology girly, boho chic.
Me, I'm like, I want to
It
go stay there. Send me the deets after we're
Yeah,
done.
you're so welcome to. But that for me was work, like, when I was shopping to redesign it, I was like, "Oh my god," like, I am redecorating this property, branding it, like, when a woman goes if a couple goes on vacation, it is the woman that is, like, looking for the cute Airbnbs. I know what girls like, and so many times I've gotten guest reviews and comments, and it's
Mhm.
always a woman being like, "Oh my god, I wanted to come here for my honeymoon or my
Mhm.
anniversary trip."
Mhm.
But when I was shopping for it, I was like, "This is so cool. This is for work right now, and I'm
Mhm.
getting to make something so beautiful." And so finding things that are work, but do not feel like work is the sweet spot.
That is really where the meaning and purpose and like everything intersect, right? And for the woman listening who's like, I haven't figured that out yet. Like I can't say that there's a map or a blueprint that I could give you that would unlock that for you. But what I did hear you say today in multiple ways, Cassidy, is like I just kind of allowed myself to receive the signals and the signs that like took me on that journey. And I would say my journey was very similar. Like my blueprint is very different than yours, and both got me to where I wanted to go. So it feels like the new year, new rules rule is really like bet on yourself, follow your own
Yeah.
IP, trust the signal and the sign. If it's in the shower and booking the realtor in the afternoon and being under contract, like it feels fucking wild. Like you feel like a crazy woman doing it. And it's the thing that leads you to something so much bigger and so much better than you could ever imagine. So,
Yes,
that's what I would say.
exactly, you nailed it, I love that. I'm a very
Nailed it.
impulsive person, though, like, impulsive nature as a Sagittarius and
Mhm.
human design, I'm a manifesting generator, so, like, the 2 worlds of that. Fire
You don't
sign,
even know your moon sign yet, sis. Like,
I know.
get ready for a wild ride
I know, tonight when my kids go to bed, I have it on my list
No, I'm
mentally, like,
gonna
what
send you
I'd
my
like
moon
to
sign calculator. I have a whole calculator. I am
Okay.
married to an engineer, and he wrote me a whole moon sign
Well,
calculator, so I'll drop that over after the episode's
thank
done.
you. I'm
But, yeah, I mean,
excited.
I take a very practical approach to astrology because you can go way down the rabbit hole, and I know we're so at time, I apologize for going over here. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of insights that you can gather energetically to just understand where you're at and suss through where you desire to go from an astrological perspective without it feeling like it's overwhelming or that the cosmos know something about you that you don't know. So, I look
Ooh,
forward
I
to our
love
next
that.
conversation.
Goosebumps. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Thank
love
you so
that.
much for your time today, for being here, for sharing your beautiful book with the world. And
Thank you
yeah, thank you.
for having me.
If there's one thing to take from this conversation, it's this. You can be really good at a life that actually isn't right for you. You can perform at a high level, you can hold it all together, you can look like you've made it and still feel like something is off. That's not failure, that's awareness. And what you do next with that awareness, that's where everything changes. So if something in this conversation hit for you, don't ignore it. That's your signal. And if you want to go deeper into Cassidy's story, her book, Cosmic Goodness, officially launches on May 12th. I highly recommend getting your hands on it. Now, if you're in a season where you're ready to make meaningful change and actually define what success looks like on your own terms and how you want it to feel, I do have a few openings for one on one clients as we go into the rest of spring and early summer. This is the deep work, the identity work, the kind of work that shifts how you move and what you allow into your life. And that doesn't mean you're blowing it all up. That means you're changing your relationship with the system. And if you're not quite there yet, but you know you're ready for something different, I've spent the last few weeks in the Pivot Club making some major upgrades. It's called the Expansion Suite now, and it's a free space where I teach the exact tools I use to upgrade my energy, shift my thinking, and expand my own identity. Both are linked below, and as always, in a world and a corporate system that will try to tell you who you want to be, what you want, and how to live, I want to remind you that you get to choose what's best for you. I'll see you next week.